Another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast is on the air, and as always, we always bring you everything you want to know in the world of wrestling, everything you've come to expect from us. So there's no way that if you're listening to this week's show, we're not going to bring it to you not just once, not just twice, but probably a bunch of times throughout the show. That's right, Nia and her hole. That's right. Brandon, I don't think he kept up with wrestling this week because that was literally the talk of the town. We'll talk actually what that meant for Nia Jax. Some say she could be fired. Some say she could be getting a sponsorship. We'll talk that and much more. He's Brandon. I'm Jared. The Heel to Face podcast starts right now.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad Luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So the Heel to Face podcast is on the air. We're coming up on Vengeance Time Day, or Vengeance Day. They didn't say Vengeance Time Day. It's Vengeance Day. NXT TakeOver this upcoming weekend. We're only about a week away now from Elimination Chamber. It's hard to believe because the Royal Rumble just ended. We got that and much more to talk about. And of course, most importantly, the talk of the week.
My hole!
Nia Jax and her hole. The question is, was that scripted? The reason I ask, because how could it not be scripted? It's literally the talk. Everybody's talking about the most ridiculous thing that happened on Monday Night Raw. She goes to do the leg drop on the apron, and well, then she starts grabbing and screams, "My butt, my hole." And the question is, was it scripted? Because it seems like it had to be scripted because it is so ridiculous. But at the same time, if you watched the versions like on WWE Network or on YouTube this week, they actually bleep that part out. Now, I didn't know hole was a curse word, even on TVPG. I guess we're referring to which hole she was talking about, but a lot of people are saying it wasn't supposed to happen. I don't think she's going to be fired over it, but could there be disciplinary actions? And or could there be as well a sponsorship? Apparently, Tushy, who makes bidets, has reached out to her and said, hey, we can give you a sponsorship for your, I guess, calling out your hole, and more attention needs to be brought to your hole every single week. So Tushy always wants to bring in their company, I guess, so that's what they're all about. So fantastic. Nia Jax wants to get a sponsorship, or they want to give a sponsorship to Nia Jax. So throughout the program, we'll make sure to bring you the sound bite of the week. That was Nia Jax screaming "my hole" as she did the leg drop on Lana this week. So that, I think, was the highlight of Monday Night Raw. I mean, yeah, you had Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton for the millionth time, but I think that was the highlight this week. We got a lot to talk about, and results on Monday Night Raw and results on SmackDown, those aren't really the major things to talk about.
No.
If we're going to talk about something, though, from Monday Night Raw, Shane McMahon, he came out this week on Monday Night Raw for no reason at all, I feel.
Just showed up. Yeah.
Just showed up.
Yeah.
And he announced that the Elimination Chamber match that's going to happen at Elimination Chamber. What a surprise. There's going to be an Elimination Chamber at that pay-per-view. It's got 5 former champions, the current champion as well. So the question I have for you, Brandon, does it upset you that this is all former champions? Because a lot of people are upset that this is all former champions, that, whoever wins this is, they're not, I guess, doing enough with the young talent for the fact that there's nobody in this match that hasn't been there for more than like 10 years. That might be an exaggeratory number, but a long time that everybody in the Elimination Chamber has been there. Or does that not bother you? Personally, it doesn't bother me that everybody's a veteran, I guess, in this match.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't bother me at all, because here's the thing. WWE is going to do what WWE wants to do. And who cares if there's former champions in this match? The only person that should be mad is Sheamus, and he was mad. He was upset on Monday Night Raw this week, where he was like, I thought I was getting one-on-one. So obviously it's not a one-on-one in this situation, but at least he's still in the match. He's a former champion, so who knows? He might just still win the match and punch his ticket anyways. It's not a huge deal. I have been reading though online that people are actually, believe it or not happy about the talk of Carlito being around again. I don't get that. Why wouldn't you care? Why wouldn't you want Carlito back?
And it's funny because Carlito is actually talking about how he likes the locker room and is way better than when he was around before, and everyone seems happy. So maybe they're just happy to his face.
Here's the thing. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more so, some fans just want every single young superstar to be pushed, every NXT star to be pushed. Like, I'm sure people want more Keith Lee. They want more, I don't know, they may want, Kyle O'Reilly, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. When Carlito looks this good, Why? I mean, you saw that. You saw how he looked at the Royal Rumble. He looks in the best shape of his life. Yes, what is he, 41? But guess what? He looks in the best shape of his life, and I think he can still go. I don't see a problem with it. I think he can have a nice run, another run in him, I would say.
I guess the thing is, wrestling fans obviously complain, but I think the big thing is what do you really want young talent? And when I say that is because a lot of times you get these things like young talent and you get these indie kind of matches, these more not WWE produced kind of wrestling. And unfortunately, it just doesn't produce the views. It doesn't produce the ratings.
No.
I mean, wrestling fans are like, AEW's the best. AEW's great. But unfortunately, AEW doesn't get the rating that Monday Night Raw gets. AEW doesn't get the rating that SmackDown gets. So, I mean, I understand where wrestling fans are coming from, but you got to do, and it goes to the whole thing with Bad Bunny being there. You can't not take the publicity. You can't not take it. Listen, if AEW starts outdrawing Monday Night Raw, and I don't mean for a week, I mean legitimately, if AEW starts outdrawing Monday Night Raw, WWE as a whole, Raw and SmackDown, I think, are a two-part system because AEW's got one show. Raw and SmackDown, that's WWE. That's two shows, right? So it's not just Raw or SmackDown. AEW have to outdraw Raw and SmackDown collectively because it'd be the two companies versus each other, not just show versus show because AEW doesn't have a SmackDown. So if AEW did that, then WWE would change. Or WWE would change to fit the ratings.
They're not going to. Here's the thing. When you bring in somebody like Bad Bunny, you're not changing a thing. You just want to get eyeballs. I mean, Bad Bunny is one of the most famous people in the world right now. Everything he does gets millions of pops, millions of views. You name it. His interactions are higher than just about anybody in the world. So if you're tying him to WWE, WWE's thought process is this: if I can get some of that Bad Bunny, fan base to maybe jump into wrestling a little bit more, well, guess what? That's going to make them a lot more money because that means people are going to buy merchandise. They're going to go to the shows when we can go back to shows. And they're going to go, it's cyclical like that, where if you bring in these big names, that's why WWE does what they do. And that's why the numbers are still higher than AEW's because AEW, I mean, what did they do this week? They had Kenta, which, we all know is Hideo Itami in WWE NXT, but they're not bringing in a ton of celebrities. I mean, they got Shaq coming up, but Shaq, Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny is more famous.
And I guess
than Shaq.
the thing with celebrities too is they've always been incorporated in wrestling since, before I started watching wrestling, going back to essentially when WWE became sports entertainment, WrestleMania 1. It was founded on that celebrity involvement. And the fact is, listen, you want the wrestlers. I'm fine with the celebrities, that are not in the main event. WrestleMania 11 sucked me because that's your WrestleMania main event. But other than that, I'm fine with the Floyd Mayweathers in the undercards against big shows. I'm fine with the Mickey Rourke's. I'm fine with the Snookies. I'm fine with all of that because wrestling's a whole package. I don't think, you would look at like WrestleMania 12. You can have a silly match between Goldust and Roddy Piper, and then you can have the Iron Man match for the championship. That's the classic. That's what makes WrestleMania great. You can have, WrestleMania 25 had Mickey Rourke against Chris Jericho in a silly wrestling match. It also had Michaels and Undertaker in probably the best WrestleMania match ever. So that's wrestling. It works together. So if Bad Bunny's not taking a championship spot, he's not main eventing WrestleMania. So if he teams up with Damian Priest and takes on John Morrison and The Miz at WrestleMania, so be it. It's not going to hurt Edge's spot against Roman Reigns or whoever he faces for the championship.
No, it's not going to hurt anybody because we know, and honestly, we think Miz and Morrison, there's nothing against them, but they're the perfect combo to face Bad Bunny because here's the thing. You're not expecting Bad Bunny to be a champion. Let's be honest. He's not going to be a champion, but you're just trying to get some eyeballs on the product. And here's the thing. Why would you not have the Miz on this? Miz not only is a wrestler, but he's also been in movies. He has a TV show. He's done a lot of different things over the years. So, the non-traditional fans might actually know Miz more than, let's say, you put him in with a Damian Priest example, facing off a Damian Priest. I think the reason why they're pairing up Damian Priest with Bad Bunny is for the Hispanic crowd. That's where I'm getting. I think they're trying to hit that niche. Because you see, the gear. You'll see Damian Priest's gear. He represents his background, his culture. He's from New York City. He's a Hispanic man. So, what better thing to do is it's to go after a certain audience too. So, overall, I think it's good to have that match. I don't think you could pick a better tag team match with two other competitors facing Bad Bunny and Priest, to be honest with you.
I mean, that is true. As I have to, I mean, the whole thing with any circling back to Elimination Chamber with the veterans still being in the main event match and all that going on. Listen, WWE is different than AEW. AEW exists. If you don't like, or New Japan exists, or Ring of Honor exists, if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. You can watch something else. WWE is a huge entity. They are more than just the wrestling. We realized that a long time ago, that they were more than just a wrestling company, that they're an entertainment company, and they do all sorts of things that, you know, it's kind of funny, like these wrestling companies would do, I guess, if they could do too. So we can't be over here going, oh, they're not pushing. Well, if AEW had WWE's roster, who would they be pushing? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah,
a lot of times when they get veterans, they push them. I mean, Impact Wrestling was a perfect example of that. They literally took everybody that had a WWE name on them and made them champion right away. Yeah. But focusing back to why I'm not a fan of the Elimination Chamber match is not the veteran perspective, but it's this problem we have with making these pay-per-views that don't really have the organic quality to them. Hell in a Cell, Elimination Chamber, TLC. We have to have an Elimination Chamber match at this pay-per-view because that's what you called it. If you didn't call it Elimination Chamber, we wouldn't have to have an Elimination Chamber match. We wouldn't have to have a championship match that has 5 people in it. Sheamus, I guess, is one exception, that have no business. There's no story. There's nothing. Raw this week was just a show that had nothing to do with stories, and this pay-per-view is a pay-per-view that has nothing to do with any sort of stories. We already advertised that Hell in a Cell is happening at Hell in a Cell. So even though these matches might not have any need to be in a Hell in a Cell, they will have them. The Royal Rumble's fine. That's fine the way it is. And I mean, and Survivor Series, that's fine the way it is. But when you pigeonhole your product to have all these other niches, then we have to have things like an Elimination Chamber, which is not organically created at all. These people are not in the championship picture. To me, I don't see anyone winning the championship at Drew McIntyre other than maybe Sheamus. And the only reason I would say Sheamus is to set up a rematch, maybe at Fastlane, maybe at WrestleMania. I'm starting to hear some more rumors that this Sheamus-Drew McIntyre feud might actually go all the way to Mania if we have people like Edge taking on Roman Reigns and Finn Balor getting busy. Yeah, he'll need an opponent.
It's all TBD, but I do agree with you. I think
these other 4 people in Elimination Chamber are meaningless.
Yeah, they're essentially just kind of add-ins. They're just kind of throwaway opponents. Like, I'm not expecting any one of them to win. I agree with you 100%. If anybody's going to win the match other than Drew, which I would say I'm like 90% sure that Drew's winning, that small 10% I'll throw on Sheamus because, like you said, it would be the only storyline at this point that could make sense leading into a WrestleMania match.
I'm curious what the buy rates would be if this was a traditional pay-per-view, knowing that there's still Fastlane and knowing that there's obviously WrestleMania down the line.
No, I don't think there would be a lot. I mean, it'd be almost as bad as, what was that, the December to Dismember?
I mean,
that was pretty bad.
We'll only have to speculate. As you talked about veterans and taking spots, so we'll have to move on to the most famous veteran of all that's taking spots. But before that, so one veteran that took a famous spot this week, or is still in the spotlight, I guess, that people are talking about, is a certain name Tom Brady. Now, he played in a game called the Super Bowl the other day. He's 43 years old, something like that. Yeah. He's
elder
still
statesman.
He's still kicking it. He's up there with Edge, still doing his thing in the world of professional football. And one thing that we tie that into, because one thing the Super Bowl had this week was cutout fans. And Vince McMahon apparently was pretty adamantly against cutout fans when it was brought up to him originally. But after watching the Super Bowl this week and WWE representatives being at the Super Bowl, that's a possibility. You a fan of some cutout fans at WrestleMania?
Absolutely not. I have no interest in cutout fans whatsoever. I'm actually with Vince on this. I think the concept of cutout fans is a little ridiculous. I mean, the only thing it's good about is making a laugh on Twitter where it's like, you see a picture, like you'll see the cutout of, I don't know, like Doris Burke or something, you know, somebody from ESPN. And like, you'll hear the broadcasters like, oh man, you're pulling double duty. You're in the stands too. That's cool. You know, it to me, it has no, I don't really care. The only thing I will say about I would say the post Super Bowl, obviously Tom Brady is who he is and he's fantastic. But did you see the not sober Tom Brady? That's all over the internet. Man, Tom Brady he's like an older Gronk. So I would definitely, if you haven't checked it out on social media, just look up Tom Brady Super Bowl party. You'll enjoy.
Yeah, let's just say I did say I saw a video of Tom Brady. He got a little drunk, and let's say he's not somebody, he can do everything, but apparently not ride a boat too well. It might make him a little seasick there. In fact, I think we have some audio of Tom Brady getting off the boat this week during their parade. That Tom Brady, he is something else. He had what a wild week. But to the cutouts, I'll say this, you would rather see empty seats, let's say at WrestleMania.
I would honestly, if I was an owner of a team, this is what I would do. I would literally have companies bid for, putting like sheets over the seats, like you see in other,
like advertisements.
Yeah, advertising. That's what I would do. Because here's the thing, stadiums do it all over the place. I've seen soccer stadiums where they just put instead of having it on the ribbon board, they have it cut out. Like you'll see different companies. I'm okay with that. The cardboard cutouts, I guess
the issue you have with that though is that when they do that, they're literally squishing fans into certain areas. They're blocking off blocks of seats, and then they're putting all the fans in these seats. They still want to separate fans so that not everybody's together.
You can still be separated. That's the thing. You can still be separated. You put them in kind of like these, I guess you call them pods, where you have certain areas. You can still, what you would do is you'd put the top of the stadium, which if there's a triple deck or, a double deck.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I guess they want it to look more full because obviously if there's 2 seats, then 2 empty seats and 2 seats next to it,
we know
you're not going to put an advertisement between 2 people. You would need much more space.
You could put a graphic up. I mean, you could put a little graphic up. I mean, they do
Maybe
that.
They put up the Thunderdome video boards, so it's me, and then between me and you, a Thunderdome guy, and then you.
I don't get the cardboard cutouts. I really don't.
It's just for aesthetic. I think of just it's looking like PlayStation 2 back in the day when you're playing the football games and you got the crowd.
PS2.
You know what I mean? Remember playing the PS2?
That's
or
going
even,
back.
Even worse, PS1.
PS1.
PS1 before they had the graphics to have the crowd, they just had the smattering of what looked like confetti to make it look like a full crowd in the stadium.
We've come a long way since then.
So we move on to a guy who's going to go to WrestleMania. Now, he's not going to make his decision until after the Elimination Chamber, but he has told Triple H, regardless of your rumors of him facing Finn Balor at WrestleMania, if he doesn't face Finn Balor, he still wants to be involved in NXT even post-WrestleMania. Triple H says, expect Edge to be involved with NXT, whether it be at WrestleMania, he's not ruling that out, or if not at WrestleMania, then post-WrestleMania.
And here's the thing, it makes sense. Who works in NXT? His wife, Beth Phoenix.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, why not be able to?
You're right. So you can't have him there. That's the Joe Buck nepotism thing going on. I mean, family and friends. We can't have that going on. We'll wonder how he got the job there. We'll wonder how Beth Phoenix got the job. We'll go, hey, I wonder how Beth Phoenix got here.
Two legends. Two legends. You know what? It makes sense though because I think Edge's real reasoning. All jokes aside from obviously the Beth Phoenix factor, his misses. But I really think he wants to work with a lot of the young talent and instill some of the stuff he has learned in his 20 some odd plus years, 30 years probably. I think he's almost 50 now. All these years in the business, he can instill that mindset into the young guys and gals. And, hopefully they take the knowledge and they become better because of the experience they have with Edge.
So this week, Triple H also said during a conference call, for those wondering where Velveteen Dream has been, one of your favorites, there's really nothing to add. He said when it comes to Velveteen Dream's status, we've gone over it a million times. He's still training. He had a little bit of a physical thing going on for a bit, but he's still here, still with us. He's still at the Performance Center and still on the roster. Are you excited to see Velveteen Dream, or do you think that's a little of a put over, like there's more to it than just, he's at the Performance Center, we don't have anything for him lately. He's kind of nursing an injury.
I honestly, that, reading, listening to what you just said, that statement that Triple H came out and said, that tells me they're doing a thorough investigation on this. Obviously, they're taking this whole matter of what happened very serious. Now, my problem is, why'd you have him on in the first place? You had him come back. So obviously, they got some backlash somewhere from somebody where they're like, you know what, we got to pull you back. We got to figure this out. Because here's the thing, whether it's, we don't know if it's true or not. It's all rumors, but WWE doesn't want their reputation tainted with somebody who potentially did some really bad things.
Now, I know Triple H is involved with NXT more or less, but I would actually like to see someone say, hey, where's Aleister Black? That's a question I also have as well.
He's sitting out because he's getting punished for his wife. That's what
I mean,
we all know.
So
that.
I would really like to hear Triple H's explain to that, and for your friend Pat McAfee, his explanation where he has been since War Games is more or less that with the Super Bowl and the NFL and everything, he's just been very busy. He expects him to be back in the fold once his schedule clears up pretty soon.
Yeah, I think you'll see more of Pat McAfee. I think honestly, I believe Lorcan and Birch, I think they need Pat McAfee back because I think without Pat McAfee, they're kind of just sitting. They're sitting in like the middle of the ocean with this life vest. It's kind of like out in the middle of nowhere. So I think they really need Pat McAfee back. Pete Dunne doesn't need anybody. Pete Dunne does a great job. He cuts a good promo. He's great in the ring. So I'm not worried about Pete. I would say having Pat McAfee back would benefit Lorcan and Birch for sure.
One thing I noticed this week while I was out and about at a store is that WWE is still in, again, they haven't pulled them from the shelves yet. I don't know how important they find this to be, but there's still WWE Network cards for sale. Now, WWE Network cards are for those who don't have credit cards, or let's say you want to get the WWE Network to a kid for Christmas and you're not going to just hand over your credit card. You get them these prepaid WWE Network cards, which essentially give them the network for as much as the card offers. Some people, I assume, some 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, probably got a year's worth of WWE Network cards this past Christmas. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to translate these WWE Network cards into the Peacock Network, because I've actually spoke to some kids who were like, well, is there still going to be a WWE Network here in the United States? And I said, I don't believe so. And they're like, well, I have like 4 WWE 3-month network passes, and I don't know the refund policy on them, especially if they're gifts and you don't have the receipts.
Well, so here's what'll probably happen. They'll probably do something within Peacock. They'll be, I think those kids.
I mean, they'll and that's the thing. They'll have to welcome those WWE. I mean, so it kind of hurts Peacock because they're not going to be getting that money right away. They've already paid $1 billion, and then they'll have to honor these network cards.
Well,
but
that was probably part of the agreement, because obviously WWE knows that there's people out there that have these cards. So for me, I don't know. I'm speculating. I have no idea. But what I would assume is Peacock will just kind of grandfather those cards in. Eventually, you're gonna have to get rid of them. I mean, if you have hundreds of cards, you got to take them off the shelf at some point.
Yeah, and if you have like 30 cards in your possession, like you literally bought 3 years worth, that was dumb on you. You shouldn't have done something like that, because it's like I guess it'd be the same as, I'm not a video game person, but if I bought like 5 years worth of PlayStation Online time, and obviously as systems evolve and new systems come out and new networks evolve, that'd be stupid for me to buy 5 years of something that probably could, let's say, be cycled out and essentially not be continued anymore.
Yeah, that would,
or like Xbox Live or something like that.
Be a very painful experience.
So we move on to NXT Vengeance Day this week. We'll talk a little No Surrender as well, or at least the important matches for that. But NXT Vengeance Day pay-per-view. Normally NXT kind of feels separate, but I feel it's starting to feel like a third brand. This feels like a pay-per-view. I feel like I'm going to watch this pay-per-view with just as much excitement or importance as I will Elimination Chamber or Fastlane, if not maybe more.
I'll be watching it definitely more so. Yeah.
So Finn Balor, Pete Dunne, we know it's going to be a good match. Do you see the championship changing hands this weekend?
I do not. I do not see that, because I'm going to hedge my bets on Finn Balor versus Edge, WrestleMania.
Women's Championship, Io Shirai, Toni Storm, Mercedes Martinez in a triple threat. Do you see Io Shirai maybe losing this belt to Toni Storm?
I don't. I think Io Shirai is going to hold on to the belt.
All right, so you're all the champions retaining. So the final one, Kushida, Johnny Gargano, the North American belt. Are we going to clean sweep of retentions?
No, Kushida, baby.
Kushida is going to be your new North American champion. You got to
push. You got to push. I'm sorry. You got to push Kushida. Come on, let's get it done, NXT. Let's WWE. Let's get it going.
And you got the 2 Dusty Rhodes Classic finals, both the women's and the men's. You got Amber Moon and Shotzi Blackheart in the finals against Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. Now, here's the thing. I don't care who wins this. It's like American Idol. The people who make it to the finals of American Idol are both worthy of a record contract. Neither of them are scrubs. You don't make it that far, right? So for this match, I could care less who's officially the champion of the Dusty Rhodes Classic.
It doesn't matter to me.
But the match itself, I mean, these competitors, I am very interested. Probably more so in this than the women's championship match.
I'm going to tell you this. I know where it's going. It's going to be Raquel Gonzalez, because this 2021, and I already went on record, last year, I said 2021 was going to be the year of Raquel Gonzalez. So we're going to keep the momentum going on Raquel Gonzalez this year. So
Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai winning this. Now, I'm actually more interested in the women's than the men's with MSK versus Grizzled Young Veterans. Not saying I'm not interested in that at all, but I say the women's match actually has more star power.
You don't want to see the Rascals? You don't want to see those guys wrestle?
Yeah, the formerly known as the Rascals, now MSK. it's good that they're in the spotlight, that they brought them in, and I'm familiar with them. But again, it's good that you familiarize, but put them up where we'll actually be very familiar. with them
I will say
this
this, I do think MSK wins. I mean, why would you push them all the way to the finals to have them lose? I think MSK. Nothing against Grizzled Young Veterans. I think those guys are good, but I do think MSK will win that match.
So No Surrender, which is one of, I guess, Impact Plus. It's essentially the I don't know what you'd call it. What WWE Roadblock or like the Beast in the East, like the network specials, Starrcade. They have these in-between pay-per-views that aren't pay-per-views that are on Impact Plus. Gives you a reason to spend your $9.99 in Impact Plus, I guess. But to be honest with you, there's a few matches I'm looking forward to this weekend, and I'm kind of curious about because of their connections with AEW and this whole thing going on. And we got the Good Brothers defending their Impact Tag Team Championships against Chris Sabin and James Storm, as well as Private Party. Who's leaving there with the Impact Championship belts? Is Private Party taking it back to AEW?
Ooh, that is actually one of the toughest matches I can decipher, because I'd love to see Private Party win, but I have an inkling that the Good Brothers are gonna keep it going, because obviously this whole thing with him and Kenny, with them and Kenny Omega, I think they're gonna keep all the gold.
And another match I'm interested in because it's former WWE friends going against each other. We're talking Matt Cardona and Eddie Edwards versus Brian Myers and Hernandez. That's Kurt Hawkins, who's Brian Myers. That's Zack Ryder, who's Matt Cardona. So I'm interested in that because those guys are such good friends. Obviously, they've tagged together. They were Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder. I mean, that was one of the bigger tag teams in WWE for a little bit. And now they're going against each other in a tag team match. And some other matches I'm looking forward to. At least one other match I'm looking forward to. Rich Swann against Tommy Dreamer. And I guess the reason is, do you think it's possible that Tommy Dreamer could become the Impact World Champion? Especially now with AEW going to rivalry, or do you think they just keep going the route of Rich Swann?
You got to keep Rich Swann at this point. I mean, the real answer is Moose. I mean, how many times I got to tell you this? Moose he's the guy. Put the belt on Moose. Like, let's stop screwing around with Rich Swann and especially Tommy Dreamer, because if you put the belt on Tommy Dreamer, I feel like that takes a lot of the credibility away, because it's Tommy freaking Dreamer. The guy's past his prime. He doesn't need to be a champion. He just needs to be a mentor at this point.
All right, so those two pay-per-views are pay-per-view and a half, I guess. One's a special, one's a pay-per-view. One's not really a pay-per-view because it's also on the network, and you couldn't even buy it on pay-per-view. So I guess they're both specials, because regardless of wherever you live in the country or in the world, you have to be watching these in some sort of streaming service, because none of them are via traditional pay-per-view. But interesting nonetheless. We will talk about them. Elimination Chambers next week, only 3 weeks after the Royal Rumble. It seems very short because the Royal Rumble was just last week, and then Elimination Chambers next week. But don't worry, if you think that's too short, we got another pay-per-view coming around the corner before WrestleMania. So we have lots of WrestleMania pay-per-views prior, because I know you at home are sitting there going, between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, there's just not enough pay-per-views.
No, we need
there
more,
used to only be one. We need like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
we need to
more.
literally water down the road to WrestleMania so much and just have all these matches that are completely meaningless, because we make the matches for WrestleMania, but then we still have to make matches in between. For example, Drew McIntyre is going to be in the main event of WrestleMania, regardless of what these 2, 3, 5, 6 pay-per-views between tell us. It's going to be Drew McIntyre. It's going to be Roman Reigns. Edge is going to be in there as well. So it's busy work. It's what we call it when you go to work. It's busy work.
Yeah. It's really what it is.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll talk that next week and much, much more. But before we go off the air, one more time, Nia Jax, give it to us. He's Brandon. I'm Jared. This has been the Heel to the Face podcast.